the high-stakes waters of the South China Sea, a dramatic confrontation has unfolded. The U.S. Coast Guard has taken decisive action against illegal fishing vessels, marking a significant escalation in maritime enforcement. On a seemingly ordinary day in the South China Sea, U.S. Coast Guard patrols encountered a fleet of 48 Chinese fishing vessels operating illegally. When ordered to cease their activities and leave the area, the fishing vessels brazenly challenged the U.S. authorities, prompting an extraordinary response. This incident is part of a larger pattern of illegal fishing and territorial disputes in the South China Sea, a region rich in marine resources and strategic importance. Faced with defiance, the U.S. Coast Guard had no choice but to escalate their response. In a coordinated operation, they disabled and ultimately destroyed the 48 Chinese fishing vessels, sending a clear message about the enforcement of maritime law. The destruction of these vessels has far-reaching implications. It has intensified the already fraught relations between the U.S. and China, with both nations navigating a complex web of territorial claims and maritime rights. Illegal fishing is a global issue with significant environmental, economic, and security ramifications. The South China Sea is one of many hotspots where these activities threaten marine ecosystems and the livelihoods of local communities. The armed forces of the Philippines recently reported a significant increase in Chinese fishing vessel activity within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone in the South China Sea. This development was observed on June 30, and the AFP shared this information on Friday. Chinese fishing vessels sighted near Iroquois Reef. Philippine Navy Britain-Norman Islander patrol aircraft identified a large number of Chinese fishing vessels near the Iroquois Reef during routine patrols. According to the AFP Western Command, 48 Chinese fishing vessels were present around the reef during the latest air patrol on June 30. Lieutenant Edgar Avocado, the pilot in command, noted the visible clustering of these vessels from the air. Co-pilot Lieutenant Carla Andres mentioned that these vessels appeared to be loitering in groups of 5 to 7, rather than actively fishing. Increasing trend of Chinese presence. The recent patrols by the Philippine Navy aircraft corroborated earlier intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance (ISR) flights in the area. These flights had indicated an increasing trend of Chinese fishing vessels' presence. The AFP Western Command documented 12 fishing vessels in February 2023, which surged to 47 by June 12. Chinese maritime assets at Sabina Shoal. In addition to the increased fishing vessel activity, the AFP Western Command also reported a heightened presence of Chinese maritime assets at Sabina Shoal. This included 3 China Coast Guard ships and 2 People's Liberation Army Navy vessels, regularly loitering in the area. In contrast, only 2 wooden resupply boats from the Philippines and 2 Philippine Coast Guard vessels were noted. Reed Bank and Spratly Islands dispute. Iroquois Reef is part of the larger Reed Bank, known in the Philippines as Recto Bank, an underwater volcanic mountain northeast of the disputed Spratly Islands. The Permanent Court of Arbitration ruled in 2016 that Reed Bank falls within the Philippines, granting the Philippines economic rights to the area. However, China does not recognize this ruling and claims the area as its own territory. Despite the area's rich hydrocarbon resources, the Philippines has not begun significant extraction efforts due to China's claims. Sabina Shoal blockade operations. The presence of PLAN and China Coast Guard vessels at Sabina Shoal, internationally known as Escota Shoal, and part of the Spratly Islands, is attributed to China's ongoing blockade operations against the nearby Philippine military outpost at 2nd Thomas Shoal. This outpost, manned by a dozen Philippine Marines on the grounded barco Sierra Madre, was deliberately run aground in 1999 to assert the Philippines' claim to the area. Since 2014, Chinese Coast Guard vessels have interfered with resupply missions to this outpost, including an incident on June 30. Planned ships near Malapascua. In a subsequent post on Wednesday, pictures of planned ships with hull numbers 620 and 629 were shared, indicating that the Type 056 Jiangdao-class corvettes SCS Ganzhou and Tonglan were 9 nautical miles away from Malapascua. Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Wang Wenbing stated in a Thursday press conference that the second Thomas Shoal is part of China's Spratly Islands, referring to it by its Chinese name. Global concerns over Chinese fishing practices. The increase in Chinese fishing vessels is part of a broader pattern of China's distant water fishing practices. As global fish stocks have diminished, China has faced allegations of illegal fishing in various regions, including Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Many of these regions lack the resources to enforce fishing regulations effectively. Large Chinese distant water fleet. China's distant water fishing fleet is known for its size and lack of transparency. Official Chinese sources claim the fleet includes about 2,600 ships. However, research by the Overseas Development Institute in 2020 estimated the fleet to be nearly 17,000 vessels. In comparison, the United States distant water fleet averages around 300 vessels. Efforts to combat illegal fishing require robust enforcement, technological innovation, and strong international partnerships. The recent actions by the U.S. Coast Guard highlight the need for vigilance and decisive action. The destruction of 48 illegal fishing vessels by the U.S. Coast Guard is a landmark event in the ongoing struggle to protect the world's oceans. As tensions rise and stakes grow higher, the international community must work together to ensure the sustainability and security of our maritime resources. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more in-depth coverage of global events. Stay informed, stay engaged.